Get ready.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy holidays to welcome to the latest episode of Gullcast. I'm the esports coordinator here at Endicott College, Brendan Hall. Today, joining me, I feel like a longtime, first-time fan, as a longtime subscriber to your newsletter. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you on. This guy is a really impactful thought leader in the esports space. He's going to kill me for talking about too much, but just a guy who's really just has an awesome newsletter, just has some really unique thought leadership out there, a guy that certainly has his pulse on the business of esports. So it's an honor to bring him on here. Please welcome everybody, founder of the Private Lobby, Zach Eller. Zach, how you doing, bud?
Good.
Good.
Excited.
Me too. By the way, I love your background. You totally created this just for make sure you had everything in a row when you come on the pod.
This
right?
was just for this podcast.
Yep. Amazing. Well, Zach, for those who are listening, probably aren't familiar with your background, and I just find that everybody has such a fascinating journey into this field. So I want to hear your journey and how you arrived here.
Yeah, I mean, in esports, I feel like a lot of people get started the same way because when you're young, like you're like, oh, I want to be a professional like gamer. And of course that was what I wanted to do as well. When StarCraft 2 dropped in like 2010, 2011, I was like sold. The idea of having a 1v1 game where I didn't have to like depend on teammates. I could just, if I lost, it was my fault. It was really appealing to me. I got really like into the scene. E.g. StarCraft was huge back then. But the career didn't work out. So started trying to like find ways into the industry besides just being a player. Got a start at Envy back when they had just gotten investment for the first time back in 2016. They were moving from Greensboro to Charlotte because they had gotten a new investment, and they just put out like a news article where they were looking for staff. So I just sent a cold email and ended up getting a job from it. So definitely recommend to anyone, don't hesitate to send those cold emails because it can definitely lead to a whole career that you wouldn't have thought was possible.
Wow. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed, huh?
Yeah. So I spent like 7 years at Envy and Optic. Transitioned from my original role was in accounting and finance, transitioned to marketing and strategy and social media. Moved to Zone for a year after my 7 years at Optic. And then I launched my own agency this year in April.
Oh, well, and what, I'm sorry, what is that agency for those not familiar?
Yeah. So we're like a gaming focused marketing agency called POV. We basically just help brands connect and engage with gamers through marketing campaigns, influencer marketing, and social media.
That's awesome. And what prompted you to start this newsletter? For those of you who aren't familiar, and I actually have my students subscribe to this in my classes. So
Nice.
but it's called the Private Lobby. It's a bi-weekly, like twice a week, 3 times a week newsletter.
It's once a week.
Once a week.
Every Thursday. Maybe a little late today, but it should come out today.
That's okay.
It's privatelobby.gg. That's how you can find it.
Yeah. And what I love about it is kind of the reaction to things going on in esports. To me, esports marketing is such a fascinating field because it's so different from traditional disciplines and just how relationship focused it is with influencers, creators. It's an area that esports is well ahead of the curve on as that becomes more part of the strategy for a lot of legacy brands. But you guys always seem to have a good take on things, and it's a good way to start my day. So how did this come about? What prompted this to come about?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard of Mark Kai. He's like a gaming influencer on LinkedIn. He works for NVIDIA, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He was creating these like gaming news wrap-ups like once a week. And he still does those. They're really popular. And I just kind of like wanted to do something similar. It seemed like it provides a lot of value to the industry. And I like the idea of it. And I was also following Morning Brew, if you've ever heard of that
Oh yeah.
newsletter.
Yeah.
And they have a podcast as well.
Yeah.
Their whole thing is like helping you stay smart and informed to your coworkers and your boss, mostly in like finance. But I wanted to like bring that idea into marketing in gaming and esports, because like a lot of people in gaming and esports now, they didn't get their start here. They came from other industries, and they're maybe like later in their career, and they don't have time to like stay up on social media and the news around the industry. So they really struggled to like stay up to date on things. So I thought that's really like where we would come in and provide value, is to like help those people stay up to date, and also like provide some insights beyond just like the news. We would also like provide our thoughts on the news and like why it matters, because it gives some context that maybe they wouldn't pick up or understand.
Yeah. What's an ongoing topic that really that you're paying particular interest to right now? So,
Definitely. UEFN and Roblox is
yeah.
still crushing. When brands want to look into gaming right now, that is one of the first things they're thinking about, because you can it's not just like doing a live stream with your branding on the live stream. You're actually creating an in-game immersive experience that people can play and interact with your brand physically.
Yeah.
One of the examples I like to bring up when I talk about it is TurboTax's Millionaire Tycoon.
Huh.
It's an
Yeah.
actual game called Millionaire Tycoon, where you start out with $0 and you grow and you buy a mansion and you like build your own like uh like you get rich basically.
Yeah.
And then in the game it makes you file taxes. Like it actually does make you file taxes. But it makes it not like, it's still fun. Like it doesn't take away from the experience. And that's really like what those kind of experiences can do, is like it really allows you to learn and engage with the brand in a way that you couldn't in another way.
I'm glad you brought that up about UEFN, because I'm right there with you. I had this conversation with one of your colleagues, Brandon Painter, a while
Yeah,
back about just how much UEFN drives things. There's I think from his data he shared with me was something like 140,000 creator maps in UEFN and counting. Average time spent on a creator map is 15 minutes. At any point on the server, there's 1 to 2 million people at minimum on a
yeah,
creative map. And less than 1%, despite all that, are branded maps. And
right.
maybe like for instance, I think what was really interesting for us to see, I think his election season, was Kamala Harris's map she created in UEFN. Obviously, you mentioned TurboTax. I know there's a good McDonald's one, Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
Um, I, 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 I'm on board with like that's a hugely underutilized aspect. I mean, we're both marketers. I don't know if you ever worked on paid social campaigns, right? But a KPI. I'm a big believer in paid social. I think it's one of the most effective channels out there. But you might often list a KPI as times watch over 3 seconds, right? You have a
yep.
split second,
Impressions. Yep.
right? Right. What would you rather have? 3 seconds or 15 minutes,
Yeah,
right? That's an
yeah,
immersive experience.
yep,
And so
absolutely.
why do you think this is so underutilized? And then the other kind of going the other way, just playing devil's advocate, is part of the appeal of UVN is that unbrandedness? Do people just not want to be hit everywhere they go with that? Is that part of the appeal? I love your take on this stuff.
It's definitely hard to get
Yeah.
players. I think that's the why it's not so like readily, like everyone's not doing it, because it does take investment. You have to get influencers playing your map and streaming it. Otherwise, like no one's going to know
Hmm.
about it. So it's definitely like a high level entry point. So that's definitely why it's not taking off. But when you do it right, when you partner with the right creators, it definitely works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Going back to the newsletter, um,
Yeah,
I see, as a guy who came into the industry from sports tech and one of the hills I really planted my flag on was newsletters. And I think I think for a newsletter, I think why I'm so bullish on it is it actually is a real personalized experience. And it's also I guess what you would call it, the quote unquote new homepage, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, I don't know I should ask where you're patching in from today, but like what's
Dallas.
Dallas? Okay, I assume you're a Cowboys fan, or
Eh,
no?
I moved here for work, so probably a Panthers fan if any.
Panthers.
Yeah, yeah.
So when's the last time you went on like ESPN.com to check the Panthers score to see how
Never.
badly Dave Canales is trying to get his way through, you know?
Literally never. I have an app called Real Sports on my
Yeah.
phone. That's the only app I ever check for sports scores. Definitely recommended, by the way. It's
Yeah.
dope.
Is it better than Team Stream? You think?
I don't know Team Stream. What is Team Stream?
That's Bleacher Report's app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of my students use that. But okay, but counter that with when is the last time you checked your inbox? Probably right before this call, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
always checking my email. Yep,
so there's a new homepage, right? And
yep,
it's a personalized experience. It's a great way to, because it's a permission. You have some more license to write longer, create a more personalized experience. That your audience is by signing up, they've given you permission to
yep. And there's
have
no
some. Yeah,
searching. Like you
yeah,
don't have to like scroll through social media to find your
yeah,
news. It's
yeah.
just delivered to you.
Right. So, obviously in this industry, social media, YouTube, Twitch, all this stuff, that's immensely valuable. What would you say is the value of a newsletter in this space as opposed to other mediums?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely just that. It's the curation. It's the fact that as an audience, as a viewer, as a reader, you don't have to scroll and find things. It's just delivered to you. So you can find whatever niche that you want. There's probably a newsletter for it. And they are literally making the newsletter specifically for you. And that's really the value in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I go back actually to our friendly Fortnite conversation here, one of the things that I'm really paying attention to, as a huge sneakerhead here myself, is this addition of the Kicks cosmetic. And we talk about metaverse, we talk about immersive experiences. To me, that seems like a home run, right? If you're Nike, and I
Absolutely.
know Nike definitely took it on the chin, I think earlier this year, when their earnings came out, and I think, and this is I think sometimes the folly of e-commerce minded folks is they look at the chart and they go, okay, this is selling well, this is selling well, this is selling well, let's just do more of that, not totally respecting the mystique of scarcity at times. And so this feels like an innovative way forward, right? We talk about immersive experience. They're not just looking at it; they're actually wearing the shoes with their favorite skin, right? They're immersing themselves in it, and so I'm bullish
Right.
on this idea.
You
Um,
know what's also cool about it is like a lot of the kids these days don't understand the Air Jordan hype because they weren't a part of it, right?
right.
So like they almost see Air Jordans as a meme because that's all they've known it as their whole lives.
Yeah.
But when you start getting things like Fortnite does, where you can actually buy Air Jordans and put them on your character, it creates a level of connection that they didn't have with it before.
Yeah. And this could even branch off with, whoever that Jordan of this next era would be, right? You're
Right.
LeBron. You could wear, look, I'm a Celtics guy. You best believe I got my Tatum twos, Wouldn't it be cool to wear some like lime green Tatum twos in the
Yep.
Fortnite, right? So,
Absolutely.
I don't know. I just think this is such a great idea. I'm curious what you're hearing, from out in the wild about how this is going for them.
Yeah, I mean there's not a lot of data on it
Sure.
because it is very kept under the rug by both
Yeah.
Fortnite and by Nike.
Yeah.
But just going to your point about like how up and coming players could get better light on their sneakers.
Mhm.
Imagine if KD, like because KD shoes like really got
Yeah.
popular there for a while and
Yeah.
now they've kind of died down a little bit, but like imagine if KD's shoes had been in Fortnite and the young kids coming up had been having his shoes in the game, it would have been a completely different level.
Absolutely. And then you look back, it's kind of, this is an icebreaker I often have in my classes, when I say, what was the first title you fell in love with? For me, it goes back to Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Wow.
Playing with my sister.
Classic.
Yeah, and if you remember that game, the side scroll, the second player could be Tails, but it didn't really have any effect on the game. They're just floating around the screen, and
Yep.
My sister now lives in Nashville, has 4 kids, and when she calls me, she still hums the Chemical Plant Zone 2 music because and so it's like that relationship is generational. That relationship with those characters, and now my 2 daughters can't wait for the next Sonic the Hedgehog movie to come out. I think later
Yep.
this month. But so that's also a power here too. I think is at 13 years old, you're playing with Jordans in Fortnite. 10 years from now, what's your relationship going to be like with that brand, right?
Yeah, a
Do you
bottom
agree?
line KPI
Yeah,
on every single marketing campaign should be lifelong fans or lifelong customers. That's
yeah,
it might not be one of the top KPIs that you're looking for, but that
yeah.
should always be one of the bottom line ones for sure.
Now the question I would have with that is, in this data intensive world, how do you quantify something like that that isn't always so easily and readily quantifiable?
Yeah, you really can't, right? All you can really do is like look at how it resonated and look at how are people talking about it. And that's really all you can do. And you just hope that like as long as you are targeting the right audience and you understand the audience you're targeting, you can make things that really resonate and do that. But that's the key is like you have to understand the audience. You can't bullshit that. Like there's no way of bullshitting that. You have to understand the audience or it won't work.
Yeah, that can be hard, I think, sometimes for leaders to understand, right? When it
Right.
isn't readily available to them. Um, I mean, what is the story you have to sell in that situation, right?
I mean, as a
Yeah,
marketer myself,
yeah,
and when we were working with brands, it's very much like I am your audience. Like I am a part of the audience. I'm a part of the community. And that's why I can help you understand what the tactics should be because I can help you understand how people are going to react to it. Whereas like other marketing companies, like one of these like really big, like Maroc that works with McDonald's, they
hmm
may not have those experts, those like people that really understand gamers.
yeah.
So you never know, like, of course, I just mentioned McDonald's, and they're doing some of the best campaigns in the world right now. So that's
They
not a good
really are,
example, but
honestly. No, I get it, but yeah, they definitely between them, I feel like the holy trinity there with the fast food, right? The McDonald's,
yeah,
Burger King, Taco Bell, they're all kind of doing something off the wall. Uh,
Wendy's is doing pretty well too.
Wendy's doing it. I love that those brands they're just getting silly with it.
Yeah,
And it's gotten to a point where they're like the people who are fans of it are like embracing for that silliness. They want the silliness. Um, I feel like the LA Chargers do this too with their schedule release video. Like how
yep,
weird can it be, ever since they did the anime one, it's become a contest of like how weird can we make this?
yeah. Their
Uh,
videos are so good.
kind of makes me wonder like what would like if Call of Duty League did something like that, all the teams try to like between that, there was the Tennessee Titans video a couple years ago. For those who aren't familiar, when they went to Broadway and were just stopping, people partying. Hey, what logo is this? And they had bizarre answers, and that
Right.
was that was brilliant, brilliant. And the guy behind that, I think he's at the Arizona Cardinals now. So see how they do with next year. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Like that's just they've kind of gotten to a point where people are expecting the weird, they're embracing the weird, and
Yep.
it kind of it actually makes it like there's so many areas of social media that are toxic, and that's actually a really fun community. It's like
Yeah. I mean, you just have to let go of your like.
yeah,
You have to be willing to have some fun sometimes, and
yeah,
it makes it funner for the audience and more engaging.
absolutely. Should we go to lightning round, Zach?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So I call this lightning round. The problem is these questions tend to give answers that go off the rails and they don't be lightning. So I started calling this the thunder round, right? Instead of
Okay.
a quick lightning strike, it's a low rumbling thunder. So
Okay.
have at it, man. Um, I love this first one, and there's been a pattern emerging, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So, what is the worst advice you've ever got in your career?
So I mentioned earlier that wow, so it is more of a thunder. You're right.
You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
I started my career in accounting and finance, and the whole reason, the whole motivation behind that was I knew that like I could get to a certain like salary level pretty quickly. So like I was chasing the money, right? And that's the worst advice that I would mention is like chase the money. Like that is the worst advice possible. Chase your passion, chase like where your skills meet your passion, and where you can make money from it. That's what you should be chasing.
So you broke a streak there. I had for a couple episodes there, we had a guy saying the worst advice they ever got was from their own parents. So
Oh yeah. What was
so
the
it's
advice?
it was like, similar to what you were just saying there about chase something that's easier, low hanging fruit instead of like kind of going out on a limb. So it was very
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I will say my dad was the person that really pushed me into like chasing the money. So I definitely agree with that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also see it the other way too. Like, hey, sometimes that can afford you some freedom to do these other things, but
Definitely.
it's funny how often that particular thing comes up. So,
Yep.
um, what is an unpopular opinion you have about the industry?
Uh, this may not be an unpopular opinion anymore, but I would say like esports doesn't need to be traditional sports. Like it doesn't need to be the next big thing. Like we don't need that. We can create a healthy, self-sustaining ecosystem like without all that. Maybe players don't need to make 500,000 a year. Maybe orgs shouldn't be paying seven figures to buy players. Like esports just needs to be honest about like where it's at and where it can be. It doesn't need to be all that.
An interesting aside to that, I think, is the celebrity creator deals that don't actually. I don't know. Why are you
David Beckham.
right? Are you a fan of Optic because of Kenny, or are you a fan of Optic because of or a better example would probably be FaZe Clan, right? Like, are you a fan of FaZe because of uh
Snoop Dogg. No one's a fan of FaZe
right,
because of Snoop Dogg.
right? Are you a fan of them because of the Sports Illustrated cover with Kyler Murray and Bronny James?
Yeah, definitely not.
Right? And so
That was stuff that came after.
yeah, and so that's one area I think they really get it wrong. And even I think when you see and I'm a big believer in the power of micro influencing. I think
Absolutely.
oftentimes I saw this a lot at Huddle where I would do these creator collabs, and there's no shortage of high school coaches building with like 3 or 4 thousand subs on their Substack or Twitter followings who are just putting out really awesome game tape and analysis. And when those guys would lead off our newsletter, because I would have some native content in there. Maybe there's something else we see what I mean about Thunder, by the way. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
um, newsletters. That's one area where I think native content can help drive that, right? And you have to read it in the newsletter. It's not going to be on the web. It's not going to be anywhere else. You have to open a newsletter, get it. Um, those guys would when we had them leading off in the subject line, Coach X on this, that actually did a better open rate than when we would say, hey, Steve Sarkisian dishes on this or something like that. And then we saw that again when we had this annual week long kind of online coaching summit. And I'll never forget this one time we had a high school coach in Orlando draw more live viewers concurrently than Steve Sarkisian an hour earlier, which is insane. But again, power of micro influencing. And so to
yep.
your point about that, like, it's oftentimes I think those gamers, those creators with the micro audiences, they have a much more tapped in audience and they drive a lot more ROI. I feel.
It's really the interactivity, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're a streamer, you're actually like engaging with your audience in chat and stuff. When you're a celebrity that just stars in movies, you don't
Yeah.
have that connection with your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very relational. Okay, next question. We'll get through this rolling thunder one way or another. Uh, uh, what is one prediction you have for the future of esports and gaming?
Um, I would just say like it'll be here forever. I don't think that esports winner or any of the struggles that it may be having currently or in the past are going to affect its future. It'll be here forever, whether we're watching it in massive stadiums or we're just watching it on Twitch. Esports will be here forever, and there will always be a place for people to chase their passions and support the industry.
As an aside, are you sick of the term esports winner yet?
I mean, it's definitely a term that's easy to use because there's a lot of people that are struggling. There's a lot of orgs that are still laying people off today. So it definitely has its use. But it definitely does hurt the industry a little bit because everyone's like, oh, it's esports winter. Should I even pay attention to esports right now? So it's definitely a double-edged sword.
Definitely. Last Thunder Round question. What title out there right now do you think has the best chance of becoming, let's call it a major esport by this time next year?
It's hard.
Hmm.
Because I think the real answer is probably none. Um,
Sure.
but to answer like the best odds or the best chance, 2XKO, Riot's 2v2 fighting game. I mean,
Yeah.
anything Riot does has an automatic boost just because it's Riot. Um, Other than that, maybe Marvel Rivals. I don't know that it'll ever be able to peak at the level of that Overwatch did back in the day, or that other games are peaking at now. But it's definitely fun, and I can see some potential there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably say one of those two.
Yeah, I was gonna say Marvel. Our Overwatch team is all in on it right now.
Yeah,
They were
absolutely.
down here this weekend in tournaments. They actually feel like it's going to supplant Overwatch and kind of replace
Oh
it
yeah, I think so too.
as I don't know if you agree with this, like, public perception of Overwatch has really waned, I think, in the last
Yeah,
couple of
for
years.
sure.
I do like OWCS. I do think the open model, I don't know if franchise model is right for esports, but I do like what the but it could be a matter of too little too late. People were not
Yeah,
happy about Overwatch 2, thought it was a cash grab. And now there's this Marvel Rivals thing. The other thing that my Overwatch players saying, it's like it's it's a lot easier to rack up kills. Um, you're not having to do 900 damage to somebody to get them to disappear, right? There's a lot of
and Marvel
yeah,
Rivals is
yeah,
not afraid of like they wanted to have that arcade feel. That's what they want. They're
yeah,
not. They actually said that they're not committing to role queues.
yeah.
So they're trying to keep it away from being dull and boring the way that Overwatch kind of got to.
One that would be interesting for me long term depends on how this goes out the shoot, but the 5v5 shooter Fortnite just released, Ballistic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think Fortnite hasn't really tapped into the traditional. They've never really viewed themselves as an esport, and
They've
I think
actually
they
avoided it. They've
right,
purposefully avoided it.
right. But I do wonder if something like this could be a toe dipping into the water for them. I don't know, but um, I've heard,
They would really
yeah,
need like
yeah,
buy-in from orgs to really
yeah,
like make it happen, and I don't think they really care enough to do
yeah,
that. But it is a fun game mode. It's
yeah.
cool.
Honestly, I don't blame them for not caring. I think that side of it has a little bit of growing up to do, frankly. So,
Yeah,
all right. So we you see what I mean about, again, the Thunder, passing through the
absolutely. It's a
Thunder.
thunder. Yeah,
So you touched on Riot a second ago, and I think it's good segue to something else I want to talk about with you is I feel like Riot is one of the better storytelling companies out there for
absolutely.
gaming. Um, I look at, and I think there's been data out about this. I think NRG put out a graphic about this a while back that like 40% of new adopters to League of Legends the last 2 years were first introduced through either Arcane or social media content. And so,
Yep.
um, I'm curious, what companies have most impressed you with their marketing last 6 to 12 months? Let's say for 2024, even. Yeah.
I think it's a cheap answer because it's probably a lot of people answers, but it's got to be McDonald's.
Yeah. Huh.
But specifically the McDonald's Pokemon Go campaign,
Yeah.
um, because like in Pokemon Go, you can
Oh yeah.
you go to like parks and stuff to like
Right.
have the Pokemon spawn, but now they're making every McDonald's location a spawn point. That's
Oh.
just crazy. Like that's ingenious, right? Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, my kids will want more Happy Meals now. Thanks.
I'd also mention because we talked about Roblox and UEFN earlier. Beetlejuice, the movie.
Yeah.
They created a Roblox world when they were promoting the movie, and they put in the very first in-game box office where you could actually like buy tickets to the movies in the game through Fandango.
Oh,
I thought that was really innovative and cool. Maybe kids aren't the right audience for buying tickets because maybe their parents are buying the tickets
yeah.
themselves, but I don't know. I still think it's cool.
No, it's cool, and I think from an e-commerce perspective, I mean, you get immersed in this one thing for a while, and then you have an opportunity to buy it in the game
Yep.
and have it sent to you in real life. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
boy, that probably seems crazy to people a generation older than us who came from a very different way of advertising, that this is something that they're going to do. So
Yep. It's also a really like big shift from what
yeah,
people thought the metaverse was going to be.
yeah,
I think we're in the metaverse now, like with Roblox and Fortnite.
yeah,
It's just not what people thought it was going to look like.
yeah. Well, the problem with that was, I, let's just be honest. The guys leading the charge on this stuff during COVID, Elon, Zuckerberg, I mean, they're unlikable people. You can't
True.
have people that are unlikable like that leading the conversation. And I just think the way that people of that ilk were approaching it was like, we're going to be in The Sims. Like, no, this is boring. This is silly. But the
Yeah,
metaverse that we've been engraved in for, God, it feels like 20 years. That's what the metaverse is supposed to be,
it is. It
right?
is.
So yeah, I think people, there's been a lot of um axioms to grind and some misconceptions have to be corrected, unfortunately.
For
But
sure.
I'm with you. How about this? What companies out there do the best marketing, period, in this industry?
So other than McDonald's,
Yeah,
I'd say Red Bull. Red Bull is really intentional with their events and their activations. They don't really go for the biggest. They're always trying to like hyper focus on their audience. And that's my biggest like suggestion to any brand that's getting into gaming and esports is go after a very specific audience, like know your audience and target them specifically based on like the audience you're trying to reach and make sure like what you're doing resonates with them. And I think Red Bull does that better than about anyone.
are you familiar with how? Because Red Bull is probably among the more selective brands with who they choose
They
to
are.
partner with, right? Are you familiar at all with their evaluation process for that? How they evaluate culture fit for what they want to do with partners?
Not
No,
at all.
no. I've had some conversations with them in the past. One of the really interesting things to me is their policy of the bull does not speak, and so only the athletes they sign speak on behalf of the company. I mean,
Right.
think about it, right? When Elon talks, people listen. When Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, talks, when the CEO of Red Bull talks, wait a second, who is the CEO of Red Bull?
Right. Right.
Right. And so to me, it's a really interesting approach, probably something that only a company like Red Bull of their magnitude can get away with. But it's certainly, when you talk about perpetuating a mystique, right? And in theory, by having a policy, it's only going to be positive things about you because they're partnering with you, right?
Yep.
So that's one
Yeah,
thing
they really do
yeah.
put all the power into their ambassadors' hands. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, my understanding from their culture evaluation is it's really, are they a good person, period, like very plainly. If it's a yes, okay, here's the other things. Are they inclusive? How is their community? If it's a no, it's just scrap it. Are they not a good
Right.
person? Don't even. Are they a good person? Yes. Okay. Then let's go to question two, three, four, five. Right. So, I'm a long time a watcher of Red Bull TV. It's a free app on. It's some of the best late night mindless channel surfing because they always have some.
Really?
Well, I don't know if
Maybe
you
I'll
ever
have to
watch
check
it.
it out.
They actually have a gaming channel on Red Bull TV, and they have some really good gaming documentaries. I was watching one a while back that I show in my class here about the underground Street Fighter 2 scene in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it's like these two guys with regular day jobs who are buddies, and they're like rivals, and it's just like 100 people in a coffee shop watching these guys go at it super cool. They
The
do a lot.
fighting game scene is like no other.
Oh, it's a vibe, man. I think. Have you ever been to a live esports event?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Many.
we've got a huge event coming here in February to Boston, the Six Invitationals. First time there's been a Rainbow Six major
Oh
on
yeah.
American soil. Um, Let me ask you this: for those who've never been to a live esports event like us, what's why go if you can watch us on Twitch
Energy.
or energy?
Energy.
Yeah,
Like it really feels different. Like you definitely can watch it at home and it's cool, but the energy that you feel in the venue. It's the same like when you go to like a hockey game or something, like you can feel it. Like it definitely feels different than watching from home. And esports is no different. Like it will make you want to go home and play. Like that will happen. So I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. God, I was going for tangent, but yeah, no, highly recommend Red Bull TV. If not the gaming channel, they always have some like snowboarder doing something extreme out in the wild. It's good. It's good late night channel surfing for me, man. As
Love
a
it.
guy who cut the cord like 10 years ago, so last question, I'll wrap it up here.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for students looking to break into the industry?
Um, Definitely shoot your shot. Like there's no harm in it. Like I said, cold email is how I got my job at Envy. And actually the two jobs before Envy I got with cold emails as well. So definitely shoot your shot. But also put in the work to get your resume to where it needs to be to get the job you want, because work experience is still really important. Um, like I definitely say like pursue your passions and go after it, but be realistic with like you have to get your resume to where it needs to be. You have to get the work experience that you need to get the job.
Yeah. When you're, well, let me ask you this about cold emailing, because everyone cold emails. I think someone like you is in a position when you cold email, they go, "Oh, okay, Zach Eller's, reaching out to me." Right? You've created some equity for yourself, right? When you're out there.
Yeah, that is kind of the point of like
Yeah.
the LinkedIn presence and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of the newsletter is to really like create yourself as like a thought leader and a person that people do want to reply to.
Yeah. So you're in a good spot. Someone who's cold emailing doesn't have that. Like, what is the pitch? Like, what's the pitch earlier, like in your career? What does that pitch look like?
You want to show your passion. You want to make sure that they understand that you're passionate and that you have what it takes to be in the industry. So don't just send your resume. Like type up a little message, explain like why you're reaching out and what you can offer. That way they don't have to look through your resume and try to figure it out.
Cool. Cool. Very cool. Zach, this was a super awesome conversation. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, for sure.
How can people get in touch with you? What's the best ways to follow you?
Definitely LinkedIn is probably my strongest, where I would recommend reaching out. It's just Zach Eller on LinkedIn. And definitely check out the newsletter, privatelobby.gg. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Brennan Hall, the esports coordinator at Endicott College. We'll be doing these episodes every week. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. That's at Endicott Esports, as well as YouTube at Endicott Esports and on Spotify. But for now, for Zach Eller, this is Brennan Hall checking out. Happy holidays. See you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Endicott Esports. See you next time.